Welcome to What You Need to Grow, the podcast where entrepreneurs discover the inspiration and perspective shifts that fuel both personal and business growth. Each week, certified professional coach Jennie Bellinger brings you powerful conversations with thought leaders, subject matter experts, and innovative company leaders who share their stories of growth and the tools that made it possible. From fresh insights that expand your vision to resources you can explore on your own journey, every episode is designed to help you grow your knowledge, grow your vision, and grow your business. Now, here's your host, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome to another episode of What You Need to Grow. I'm your host, Jennie Bellinger, and I am so excited to share my guest with you today. I want you to hold on to your seats because today's guest is none other than Jay Fairbrother, also known as the Mastermind Guy and founder of Figure Masterminds. With 3 decades of serial entrepreneurship, he's launched, bought, and sold multiple 7-figure businesses. Jay's comeback story is the stuff of legends. And after losing everything in the 2010 financial crisis, he clawed his way back and redefined success on his own terms. Now he helps coaches, healers, and thought leaders build high-ticket mastermind programs that don't just scale their income, they actually transform lives. So get ready because Jay is going to show you how to monetize your expertise with community, connection, and a serious dose of mastermind magic. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jennie. That was a brilliant introduction. Thanks. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, it helps that I'm actually part of your community. So you and I have been working together. Can you believe it? We've been together for a year now. Happy anniversary, friend.
Has it been that long, really?
I know.
It seems like a few months.
I know. But the nice thing is, you and I were kind of circling each other, when we first encountered each other. It was one of those things where I had never heard your name, knew nothing of you. And then all of a sudden it felt like you were everywhere. Multiple of my friends with podcasts were interviewing you and you were showing up in giveaways with other friends of mine who were doing giveaways and and it was one of those things where I've learned to listen when the universe drops something in my lap 3, 4, 5, 10 times. I went, I need to go check out this Jay Fairbrother guy. And then you and I ended up in a room together, a Zoom room together. And I messaged you and I was like, I've been hearing your name a lot lately. And you responded back and you were like, I've been hearing your name a lot lately. We should talk. And I was like, awesome. And then here we are a year later.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you go from the serial entrepreneur who has done multiple 7-figure businesses to doing masterminds now? What's the story behind that? I mean, I know it, but I want the audience to know it.
Yeah. So I'll give you the short version of my story. I started my first company when I was 30 years old, and I was pretty successful right out of the gate. I pretty quickly grew that company to $1 million in revenue, but that's where I got stuck. I couldn't seem to figure out how to scale past that $1 million range, and I hired coaches and consultants and read all the business books, and none of it was helping. And so 5 years into that journey, so 25 years ago, I started and joined my first mastermind. And it was a mastermind for entrepreneurs. And the only reason we joined was to grow our businesses and become better entrepreneurs, right? But what happened, I just couldn't have expected or known, because within 5 or 6 months in these meetings, I'm starting to watch grown men cry as they open up and talk about their shitty marriages and their kid problems and the depression and anxiety from running a business what was created in their lives. And it's like, whoa, this is not what we signed up for. But for me, I lost my father suddenly from a heart attack at age 10.
Mm.
And so, like most 10-year-old kids would react, I disconnected, I withdrew, kind of became the lone wolf. So when I started experiencing this level of human connection, that kind of vulnerability in that first mastermind, I was like, oh my God, and I just went all in. And I started joining every mastermind I could over the next several years, eventually facilitating and creating them. And as a result, and I do credit the result largely to being in these mastermind groups. I grew that business to $10 million in annual revenues, that first business, and I sold it in 2004, and life was good. Right? You sell an 8-figure business, life gets pretty good pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So over those next few years, I traveled extensively. I bought 3 other businesses. I invested in a lot of different things. And then around 2008, what's now referred to as the world financial crisis, the Great Recession started. And by 2012, I had lost everything.
Oh.
So, when I look back at that period now, it's kind of like you stand over a toilet bowl and it flushes and you get the swirl starts to drain, but it takes like 3 years for the water to empty out of the bowl, and you're helpless to stop the swirl, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what it felt like. So in that time period, I quite literally went from being a multimillionaire living in a mansion to living in my friend's basement, broke, bankrupt, divorced, alone, and dealing with not just the humiliation, but the shame. Because
Mm.
I didn't blame the world financial crisis. I blame myself for the decisions that I made and the investments that I made and the businesses that I bought. And so I was in that basement literally for 5 months, but figuratively more like 5 years, dealing with that shame and imposter syndrome. And, I wish my story was, I bounced right out of the basement and started another company and got back in the game, but that didn't happen for me. Um, I really struggled because, for 15 years, I had built this identity as this really successful serial entrepreneur. I mean, that's all anyone knew of me and about me. And there I was sitting in that basement alone. And I literally wanted to hide in the basement. I quit almost everything that I was involved in at the time. I quit networking groups. I quit friendships. I quit some of the masterminds that I was in, except for one. That very first mastermind, I stayed in that during that time period through the basement and those, that shame period. And I honestly don't think I'd be sitting here today if it weren't for the support that I got from the people in that group. I mean, it went way beyond a basement to live in and a car I could borrow for several months. It was, emotional support, spiritual support, financial support. Um, I literally don't think I'd still be sitting here today because obviously that was a pretty dark period. So in a very real sense, masterminds helped me 10x my first business and save my life during the most difficult time that I had. So that's kind of my passion for what I do, now, which is help people to create that kind of community group, inner circle for themselves, but most importantly, to scale their businesses and create more impact with their clients.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because that right there, the ripple effect is what drives people, attracts people to something like this, is that ability to, okay, when I change my circumstances, that helps change circumstances of those around me, my clients, my family, my friends, right? All of those things. So when when did the transition of you, because this podcast is all about business growth or personal growth, and It sounds like we have a little of both that we get to talk about here,
I've had a
right?
little of both, yes,
A
for
little of
sure.
both, right? So let's talk on the business side here, the shift that happens, because obviously the mastermind helped with the personal growth piece. What were the business development things that you are really glad that you did looking back after that to begin to build what you've built now, what you have now?
Yeah. So when I sort of came back into this, coaching thought leader type world, um, you would think I would know better because of my experience building all these companies and running them. But, I did what I was taught by the industry. And so the first thing I created was a pricing course. I think you've actually been through it.
Hmm.
It was a pricing course as a low ticket offer, right? So just something to get people going. And then because I had done coaching one on one with I'd done sales training coaching for coaches, healers, speakers, thought leaders um, for a period of time, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just spin a course out of that. So I'll create a course on selling for coaches. And the pivot for me happened when I attended an event similar to the kind of events that I run now with the Six Figure Masterminds Bootcamp. I was at someone else's event and they were talking about what do you want to be known for? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like here I am developing this sales training course for coaches, but I didn't want to be known as the sales guy. Like, I've owned nine
Yeah.
different businesses in six different industries. I've got a little bit more to offer than just sales. And I literally at that event pivoted. Had that sales course literally already recorded, ready to go on my computer to launch, and I threw it in the trash. I never launched it
Oh, wow.
because it was in that moment that I'm like, my passion is around masterminds, and I know masterminds can help myself and others to scale their business as thought leaders. And so that's the moment that I sort of became the mastermind guy and said, this is what I'm going to do. And, you know, I haven't looked back since. I mean, it's just been an incredible journey building this business because it's so aligned now with my passion and really who I am.
Yeah. So knowing that you've made that business development shift and now speaking back to the personal growth, what are the personal growth things outside of masterminds that you are glad that you have done because they have made a really big impact on you?
So I'll mention a couple of things, and these are a direct derivative from one of my mentors, Jennifer Huff from thewideawakening.com, who is now a partner in the client mastermind that I run, which you are a part of.
Yep.
So working with Jennifer, she got me to realize a couple of really important shifts. One is that many of us hedge our bets. And so for me, for most of my life, I never owned just one business at a time. Often I owned three or four different businesses at once. And I
Okay.
wore it like a badge of honor, right? Serial entrepreneur. But she helped me realize that what I was often doing was basically just hedging my bets. Because if we go all in on any one thing and it fails, then we're a failure, right? But if we
Mm,
have a couple of things going and one fails, it's like, okay, well, I can rationalize that. I can, come up with excuses and reasons, and I've still got this other thing. So for me, that was a huge shift because, um, I had held back from going all in so often over my, personal and business career that, and it cost me hugely. And so, again, one of the things that I'm most thrilled about right now is, being the mastermind guy is all I do. And I have no interest in outside company's interests, opportunities. I'm like, nope, I'm in my lane. I'm loving my lane, and that's where I'll stay. So that was shift number one. And the other is just the shift around sort of becoming the person that you need to be in order to succeed. So in my case, it's like at once I was that person, but I lost that person in that process of the losing everything and the shame and I kept going back to not wanting to go back to that place. And so I wasn't being the person that I needed to be in order to succeed. And it's hard to sort of get that in a soundbite to really express what that means. Like, what the hell are you talking about, Jay?
Right.
But it's part of it is that alignment, right? That aligning yourself with your passion, aligning yourself with what literally motivates you to get out of bed in the morning because you get to do what you're doing versus I'm going to take all my experience and create something based on that, right? I may not be passionate about it, but I'm trying to make a living here. So just that shift of sort of understanding that I needed to change as a person, kind of get back to the person I was and even a version better than that in order to recreate the success. And I think that's a large part of why I've had so much success here in these past few years.
Yeah. Well, what comes up for me in that piece there, especially at the very end where you said, going back to that person I was, we can never go back to being the person we were because that person, like, they exist in that time and space. There have been other things that have happened now. We can't unlearn the things we've learned. We can't unsee the things that we've seen. You know what I mean? Like, and they all feed into us. So I love that, that understanding, that knowing of becoming the person that you need to be successful.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just had an incredible session with this incredible woman, like a personal development session, and she used a couple terms that just really struck home with me. She's like, yeah, that previous successful version of you was like the grumpier, greedier version of that. And it really hit me. And I thought back and it's like, you're right. Like, there I was, a multimillionaire sitting in the mansion, but I was kind of grumpy and greedy. And I'm not that person anymore. And that is alone is a personal development shift to realize that, like, yeah, I can be successful and be a better person than I was back then when I had that success. So
Yeah, that's so interesting because I obviously did not know that version of Jay. And so when you said the grumpy or greedy, I'm like, no, there's no way you and I would have ever connected back then because I like
yeah.
energetically push that kind of stuff off because I've had my time with grumpy people and I don't like it. And so I energetically I'm like, no, you can go be grumpy elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the trick is it's in the nuances, right? Like you know, if you had met me back then, you wouldn't have immediately going, "Oh, that's a grumpy, greedy guy." Like it was like that subtle underlay of that was
Mhm.
there. Energetically, you would have picked up on it eventually, but it wasn't even overt. It was more like this sort of subtle, yeah, kind of, angry at the world, grumpy, greedy, like, and it's great that I no longer have that piece of myself.
Right. So what changed? What shifted you from that version to this version?
I think, again, there's no magic pill. There's no overnight solution. It's not like you have a session with a healer and everything goes away. It's like,
I don't
um,
know. You and I both know Shiraz. I mean, come on now. Although that there's an asterisk on that one with Shiraz, right? So,
there's
sorry.
always an asterisk. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Shiraz is amazing.
Yes.
Um, Yeah. So, to me, it's a process, right? Like I had to work through some things and come to some realizations, around the person I was versus the person I want to be, and owning it and being in control of it. And frankly, it's still a process. You know what I mean? Like, it's always a process. Like, I'm always looking at myself and checking myself. Like right on my Facebook page, it says "Wake up every morning like a cosmic 3-year-old," which is
Mm,
an expression from Jennifer Huff, right?
yeah.
But I really try to own that, because when we can approach life and business with curiosity and joy, man, everything gets so much easier.
I love that. There's so many people. I can't, I hope they listen to this episode. And y'all, if you're wondering if it's you, the universe had you listen to this episode for a reason.
Yeah. So, but here's another critical difference. It's one thing to say that, and
Uh-huh.
it's another thing to live it and
Yeah.
own it, right?
Yeah.
And that to me gets frustrating, because there's so many thought leaders out there that will grab onto those types of cliches and spout them everywhere they can from the rooftops. But energetically, you can tell they don't really own it. They don't really, they're not really there.
Yeah.
And you know to me, that's the difference in what it's sort of having this authentic success, as opposed to, hey, I'm a hell of a good marketer and I can sell shit, so I'm going to build this really successful business.
Yeah.
Which relates to something I know we're going to talk about, which is people using the term mastermind.
Yes. Let's go there. Yes. 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 So, okay. That term gets thrown out all over the place. And there are times when I show up to something and it's a mastermind. There's times I show up to something, it is not a mastermind. And I have a little bit of the tism. Okay. So definitions really matter to me. And what people call things matters. And so it drives me crazy when I see that, because I've read the books, I've done the things, and I'm in your program, so I know what these things are now and how powerful they are. And then when you show up to something and it's not that. And in fact, I've even had people where I've invited them to a pop-up mastermind that I'm doing. And they're like, "Well, what is that?" And it's because the term mastermind has gotten so bastardized and used improperly that people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, oh. So
Yeah.
we're going to dig into that in the training. So we're not going to get the real thing, but give us the surface level definition of mastermind so people know what we're talking about, because you are the
Yeah.
mastermind guy.
Yeah. So the if a mastermind isn't something that can house 100 or 200 people, so that you see that out there, join my mastermind, there's 400 people in it. So the main difference between, like, what would be a group coaching, or the courses in group coaching, and a mastermind, is that in a mastermind, you're trying to tap into the collective experience, collective knowledge, and collective wisdom of everyone in the room, right?
Mhm.
So Napoleon Hill coined the phrase 90 years ago. And his concept was, you put two brains in a room and it creates this third invisible, intangible force that he labeled the mastermind. If you imagine 8 to 14 brains in the same room, the size of that invisible, intangible force. So the quick version of how to look at this is, in courses and group coaching programs, it's just a one to guru relationship.
Mhm.
Like, many people listening may have gone through a course or group coaching program, and at the end of that program, you haven't really even met the people you went through the program with.
Yeah.
Or you may have shared a breakout room occasionally with somebody, or
Yeah.
you felt like you got to know the extroverts because they're always on stage asking questions, but you didn't build any relationships with the people going through the program. So one way to look at just the difference between what defines a mastermind and what doesn't is that idea that you're tapping into and you're bringing the value out of all the smart people in the room, not just the guru and thought leader. So masterminds typically are a little less linear, meaning, we go through step one, step two, step three.
Mhm.
There's a little less emphasis on content coaching and mentorship because you're having those group discussions, you're collaborating together, you're co-creating together. So the getting into the nuances of how to do that, that's a whole separate podcast.
Yeah.
But that's really the key thing is the if you want to create a mastermind for yourself and your clients, then you have to be careful about creating a container which can provide safety for people to open up and have those real discussions and not be afraid of being judged because they're going to ask the stupid question or they're going to start talking about the anxiety and depression and the real vulnerabilities, the things we really need help with,
Yeah.
right? So to me, what it all boils down to is human connection, and God knows we need more of that in this world that we're living in.
Yes. Well, and what's now, of course, what's coming up for me is the how do you show up differently in a world of AI, right? And because of the need now for human connection, because people so often online don't know what's real and what's not anymore, what came from an actual human being's brain. And I listened in on Alex and Filippo, the podcast guy, Podmatch guy. He did a thing on AI yesterday, and it was about the difference between AI. It's not really intelligence because there's no soul. And I was like, oh, that's good because he's not wrong, right?
Yeah,
And so that's, now I'm already starting to look at things going, oh, I can tell that that's real because I feel the soul,
right.
right? So the mastermind is what stands out and gives us the human connection piece that we need because we've been in the age of information now for probably 20, 30 years. And now I think it was Seth Godin who recently said we're moving out of age of information and moving into the age of connection.
Yeah, yeah. So this concept of disconnection, the World Health Organization in 2024 created an entire commission to address the global crisis of social isolation and loneliness. It's the worldwide issue, right? We've lost that connection, many of us, to ourselves. That's the earlier conversation we were having. But we've
Yeah.
lost it in terms of, a lot of us aren't even really well connected to our families. We're not connected to, friends sometimes in other than superficial ways. And, every day right now for us as, speakers, coaches, mentors, thought leaders, the value of content and information and training is going down. I mean, AI can train you on anything you want to learn in the world for free in minutes today,
Yeah.
right? That's
Mhm.
today. Where are we going to be in a few years from now? So, like, to me, the idea of selling a course in a few years is no. Like, who's going to buy a course when you can just use AI to train you on whatever the course you want to learn, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's this whole, concept that what people are craving most right now, and I think the future of our industry, is that human connection piece. It's really being able to have these sort of smaller, more intimate groups that allow for more transformation. And in the end, that's why we're doing what we're doing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing what I do now to create another 8-figure business. I have no interest in that. And what I want to do is help change lives and help, and being able to work in smaller, intimate groups with people over longer periods of time. To me, that's, where we can provide the most value.
Exactly. And that's been part of your model has been the fewer, better, longer, right? Did I get that right?
You did, yes. And
Yes.
the concept is pretty simple. You can make more money and have deeper impact with fewer clients. you attract better quality clients, meaning the ones who actually show up and do the work and get the results that you can provide, and you keep them for longer. One of my hook lines is attract and keep clients for 3 years, not 3 months. And the concept there is that if you invite somebody into a more intimate mastermind, or what I call hybrid mastermind environment, and get them to commit for 6 months or 12 months initially, unlike a course or group coaching program, it doesn't end in 6 or 12 months. That's just renewal time.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, your renewal's coming up pretty quick here. We'll have to talk about that.
It is.
So here's the difference. In a course or group coaching program, it's like, okay, you got all my content, program's over, what can I sell you next? Whereas in a mastermind, it's like, no, you may have gotten all my content, right? Like, okay, I got none of that left. You got it all.
Yeah.
But now you don't want to leave the program because you have such amazing relationships with everybody else in the program. You're invested in their success, they're invested in yours.
Right.
And it's like, no, tell me how I renew.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something, I've experienced that in another mastermind that I'm in, that I've been in it now in November, it'll be 8 years. I've been in that mastermind and it's funny because people have asked me, like, don't you already know the stuff? Like, I said, yeah. In fact, when she was on her deathbed, I kept her business going. I coached her clients. So yes, I know the content.
Yeah.
But the hidden element of being in that mastermind is the people.
Yeah.
It's the community. It's the resources that I get access to. It's the connections that get made.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that I could put in its place that would give me the same thing.
So that first mastermind that I told you about that kind of saved my life, I stayed in that mastermind for 17 years.
Ooh.
And we had a similar situation to what you just mentioned. There was one of the founding members of that mastermind developed brain cancer.
Mm.
And I stepped in. I had just sold my business, and I had the time. And I not only stepped in to help kind of keep things going as he was in his final stages, but after we lost him, I spent the equivalent of probably a month or two unraveling his business for his spouse and family. And again, there's just no way I would have done that for a casual friend or acquaintance, or it was only because I had such a deep relationship with him already that and an intimate knowledge of his business from being in the mastermind with him for years at that point, that I could step in and actually provide value and help the family. So yeah, it's like having a group of people that has your back, right? Having a tribe.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about.
And ultimately, many of us who are in business, entrepreneurship, it can be very, very lonely. And that was one of the things that I really missed when I left network marketing. Was I went from this team aspect where I had people around me to all of a sudden it was me.
Yeah.
Now I have my BNI peeps, but I only see them once a week. So it was, okay, how am I going to do this? And that's when I got introduced to that other mastermind. So I want to keep talking about this, and we will, because we're going to go into a training.
Okay. I want to add one thing though here, because this is also an important distinction, because the other way to kind of look at this is the difference between transactional relationships and transformational relationships.
Yeah.
Because often, and again, a distinction between like a networking group versus a mastermind is networking groups are often transactional. How can you help me? How can I help you?
Right.
Great. If we can't help each other, great. I'm moving to the next person.
Yeah.
Whereas in a mastermind, because you involve both the personal development and the business development stuff, because as entrepreneurs, you cannot separate those two. They're intertwined, no matter what you might think. Because you sort of invoke both aspects, Now you can move the relationships from transactional into more of a transformational, and get that deeper impact and deeper value.
Mm. Well, there you go, y'all. So, if you want to know more, now by the time that this episode comes out, people are going to be listening. They're going to go, if they want to know more, if they think masterminds are maybe their thing, you actually have an event coming up in November and you do it multiple times a year. So don't worry, guys, if you missed the November version of this in 2025, go to the link. What he's about to describe for you is going to be available again in the future. So, what do you have coming up?
So my six-figure masterminds boot camp. So this is a virtual 3-day event. And first of all, it is perfect for someone at almost any end of the spectrum. And what I mean by that is, even if you're a brand new coach and you haven't fully developed your website and your CRM and all blah 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 and this and that, and
Yeah.
what the boot camp will do is give you a vision roadmap for where you can scale your business to, in the sense that, and this is part of kind of my story too, is I worked on developing my signature course and was launching that over and over, and it was successful by industry standards, but I still was not in a position where I had a sustainable business with recurring revenue. In between launches, I had no revenue.
Yeah.
And so this model that we try to give you in the boot camp helps you to create the vision for the high ticket program that you can create. And there's many different types of masterminds that you can create. There's not just one cookie cutter way to do it.
Right.
So in this boot camp, we help you identify what is the right type of mastermind for you to create, takes advantage of your superpowers. Who are the right people to target to fill it? The people who have the means to invest in themselves and you, the people who will show up and do the work, right? Then we help you build a simple model. This is on day 2 of the event. We help you build a simple model, funnel model, so that you don't need one of those, complex, fancy 34 branches, sales funnels, and all the high tech and
Yeah.
thousands of leads coming in. And then we help you create exclusivity, so that you can position yourself that, like, no, I don't need to convince you to join this program. Tell me why I should let you in, because I'm very protective about who I allow into this group. And I want to make sure you're committed and you're going to show up and you're going to do the work, right? And you're not going to be a narcissist. So that's all on day 2. And then on day 3, we give you some help to be able to walk out of the event, to start talking to people. We create a plan for what you're going to do in the next 90 days. So it's good for if you're just starting out. It'll give you a vision roadmap and save you a whole lot of time between then and when you're ready to launch your mastermind. But I've also had many existing 7-figure coaches come into this boot camp. Usually they come in because it's like, Jay, I'm supporting you. I'll come and check it out. And more often than not, they end up clearing their calendar for the days 2 and 3 and stay for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So at the link, you'll find lots of details about what we do at the event and all of that. And most importantly, to see a ton of testimonials from people saying it's the best 3-day event they've ever attended. Many people saying it's the best training they've ever attended. People saying they felt like a different person after they walked out.
Okay,
So,
it's so good, y'all. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, those of you who are listening on the podcast, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm holding up the 3-ring binder, and unfortunately, Zoom is my mastermind binder is here, I swear, but there we go. I keep it right here because the information from it is so powerful, and I keep it because I'm constantly working on it, even from the very first boot camp. And I've attended it now twice as an attendee. And the second time I was like, I don't remember that. Was that? And I remember messaging you later, like, was that new information? You're like, nope, it's the same thing I've taught every time. And I'm like, Okay, that
Yeah.
tracks.
You're not alone. There's a lot of people who come back for a second, even third time.
Yeah, it's super beneficial. And so if I'm speaking now to the What You Need to Grow community, if this is something that you're thinking about and you've been listening to this going, that's the kind of business that I want to build that is truly transformative and makes a difference in people's lives, attend the boot camp. Clear your schedule for 3 days. It is worth it. I drop everything. I move all my clients. I move all of my stuff. The only thing I can't move is my BNI meeting. So I join the boot camp from my car, but everything else gets moved and shifted during those 3 days because it is worth it to be there and be fully present. So, Jay, thank you so much for helping people to understand what this is that you do. And we're going into the community now, and we're going to train. For those of you who are hearing this and you aren't in the community yet, you missed this training, but now you know it's going to be there for you to get it. We're going to go talk more about what a mastermind is and what it isn't. So that way you can be clear when you're going and looking at things, what you're looking into and what you should be looking for and what what should be there and what shouldn't be there to make it really, really, really valuable for you. So Jay, thank you again for being here. Do you have a last comment before we go into the trading?
No, thanks, Jenny. Just, to me, the sooner that you can figure out a longer term high ticket program for your business, the sooner you will turn it from a hobby into a real business. It's a long, tough road to sell enough courses or enough 3-month programs that start over and start over again to be able to really get to the point where you feel secure as an entrepreneur. And then on top of it, I mean, running these types of programs is just so much more fun.
Yeah.
And you get to see so much more transformation from your clients. So that's
Yeah.
the final word.
Exactly. And if that's the kind of feeling you want to have, that you have those kinds of testimonials that Jay has on his site, go check it out. Because if the universe put this in front of you, it was meant for you. So I'm just going to let that sink in. And of course, What You Need to Grow community, you want to stay tuned, subscribe, rate, and review the show, and make sure that you sign up to receive notifications that the show's new episodes are coming out, because you never know what you're going to need to grow.
Thank you for listening to What You Need to Grow. Be sure to follow the show on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode. Want updates straight to your inbox? Sign up at whatyouneedtogrow.com and you'll get notified each time a new episode goes live. Here's to your growth. This has been What You Need to Grow with Jennie Bellinger.